But there is one more thing you need to know about IB.
It's called the International Baccalaureate. Average score for the diploma program is 29.2 points.
Let me tell you my story. On my first day of DP2, the second year in IB, our new chemistry teacher walked in with messy hair, a hipster look, but looking very positive. We were excited. We'd had a horrible teacher in DP1 and we're thrilled to finally have someone who was ready. She started talking, and 5 minutes in, we realized that she did not know that an IB subject was graded out of 7. She didn't know what an IA was, and she thought that it was called International Baccalaureate because it was the Spanish baccalaureate, but taught in English. We did IB in Spanish. And I thought to myself, this is going to be interesting. Now, before I sound too harsh, she was actually really nice. You could tell she really cared about us. But the truth was, she was not qualified. And I quickly learned something that would shape the next year of my life. No one was going to come to save me. No one was going to fix this. She was going to be our teacher for the next year, and neither the coordinator, nor the head of chemistry, nor no one else cared. So if I wanted a 7, I had to get it for myself. And I could have complained all day about it and done nothing. And in fact, I did. I complained a lot. But eventually, I realized that complaining wasn't getting me anywhere, and I wasn't getting the grades that I wanted in chemistry. So I started teaching myself. And by January, I was already correcting her when she would do the homework and do the redox equations wrong. In July, when I opened my grade, not only did I get a 7, but I got 97 points out of 100, which placed me in the top 1% of chemistry students worldwide that year. And it wasn't about luck, it was about taking responsibility. Here's the deal. You're gonna have some IB teachers that suck. That's just how IB goes. It's a very specialized program, and not every single teacher knows how to do it well. And everyone loves to complain about their IB teachers. But the reality is, you cannot blame your teacher, not when someone else in your class is still getting a 7 with that same teacher. So what's the difference between you and that person that gets a 7? It's self-awareness. They have realized that they have to get a 7 all by themselves. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to go from a 4 or a 5 to a 7 all by yourself. How do you figure out what you need to do specifically for you? How do you teach yourself the content? And how do you learn to do exams? Let's go. First, I want you to list all of your subjects, including your extended essay and your TOK, one after the next. Then this part's important. Put the grade you currently have next to the subject. If you still haven't done any tests because you're early in DP1, that's okay. Base this on previous performance, but just write a grade of how you think you would score if you did the exam right now. Next to it, you're now going to give your teacher a score from -1 to 1, depending on how well they teach. A 1 is their great at teaching, a 0 is they're okay, a -1 is they suck at teaching. And finally, the third grade you're going to give every subject is how much you like your teacher. A 1 if you love your teacher, a 0 if you kind of like them, and a -1 if you hate them. Now you're going to add the first 2 grades and subtract the third one, meaning you add your predicted grade plus your teacher's teaching ability, and you subtract how much you like them. This grade that you get is your projected grade. This is what you're going to get if you do not change anything, if you keep going to class, listening, studying a bit, and do the exams in May. So if for any of these subjects you're 2 or more points away from what you need, you are in trouble. That is the harsh truth. You are not going to get the grade you want. So these are the grades that you need to go ahead and teach yourself. The next thing is running a diagnostic on exactly how you should be studying for this subject. So what I want you to do now is go to ibdocs.re and download 3 past papers for each of these subjects. And you're going to do all of them in exam conditions, okay? No cheating, the same time you would in the real exam, no distractions, no phone, no nothing. Just sit down and do them. If you haven't done all of the content, which most of you will have not, skip those questions, that is okay, but just do everything else. Next, you need to grade yourself on all of these 3 past papers. If you haven't done all the questions, that's fine, scale the result, meaning if you get a 50 out of 60, but the paper's out of 80, just scale the results to 80. Then you go through the papers again, but this time you're being way more analytical. I want you to categorize your mistakes, the questions you got wrong, by topic. So figure out which topics within the subject you struggle with the most and write those down. Now you're going to list the main topics for every single subject. So for chemistry, you're going to list bonding, redox, etc. And now you give each of these topics a score out of 5 based on how well you did in the papers. 5 if you didn't miss a single question, 1 if you missed all of them. This result is your personal heat map. It shows you exactly where you should be dedicating all of your attention. And so now we head on to step 3. Now that you know which subjects are your worst and which topics are your worst, how do you actually learn those topics? This is the real gist. So next time you're studying for one of these subjects, you're going to pick the weakest topic that you diagnosed in the previous step, take a blank page of paper with nothing on it and write everything you remember about it. This could take an hour, even more, but just rate everything you remember about it. Next, you're gonna compare it to the textbook, to your notes, whatever pleases you, but make sure to do this in a different color. And finally, you're gonna circle everything you don't really understand. So any concept that you don't understand, even if you remembered it initially, or if you got it when you were looking at the textbook, circle it. Those circles, that's your real syllabus. So many IB students fall in the trap of studying concepts that they already understand because it's easier, but there's no point in doing that. These circles are the key. How do you actually learn them? For every circled item, write a list of questions about exactly what you don't understand. So for example, if you're looking at biology and you're looking at nutrient upwelling, write specific questions. How do the nutrients upwell? What does climate change have to do with any of this? Why is there more oxygen closer to the surface? Write questions. It doesn't matter if there's 50. Write all of them, every single question. And finally, the most important thing is answering these questions. Here, you can use a breadth of resources. Ask your teacher if your teacher can explain things properly. Ask ChatGPT. Go on YouTube. There's tons of channels dedicated exclusively to IB topics. I have tons of videos on biology. Use the textbooks. Go on your own notes or just Google it. There's a world of explanations out there. A decade ago, you would have had to go to your local library to look for a specific book on the topic you were looking to study. Now, you have it all at your fingertips. You do not have to be a genius. You just need to stick with it consistently because motivation will fade, but consistency sticks. And the best IB students are not those who have the best IB teachers. They're the ones who stop waiting for someone else to solve their problems and take accountability for their own grades. So your teacher might be hopeless, the syllabus might be brutal, but the 7, that's still within your reach. So go ahead and take it.